Hey, what's up? I'm Ofosu Jones-Corte.
And I'm Leah Santa Cruz. We're the meditation coaches on the Balance app.
And this is our weekly show, Well Balanced, where we explore ways to live a healthier, happier life.
And guess what? We've been saying that intro for over a year now.
Oh my
Happy
gosh.
birthday to Well Balanced.
Happy birthday, Well Balanced. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, thanks to all of you who have been joining us for these conversations. It's been a year of some really good vibes. I cannot believe it's been a year, honestly. And I don't know, Leah, I'm down to keep on making this thing if you are.
Absolutely. And I'm also really curious because now we have over 52 episodes. Just in case you didn't know, there's 52 weeks in a year. So I want to know what your favorite episode is. If you can send us an email or just check out the poll we have on Spotify, let us know. And we have links to that in the show notes.
Yeah. And I am very grateful for this podcast. And that feels timely because later this week is Thanksgiving here in the USA. And I kind of wanted to use this time to talk about our chosen family. Knowing that not everybody celebrates holidays with the family that they were born into. And I think that these families that we build for ourselves are really vital. So how's that for something to talk about today?
Yeah, I love this topic.
All right. Yeah, me too. So before we get into this, though, I did want to acknowledge the origin of the term chosen family and how it came into the popular ubiquity that we experience it in today. So a chosen family can be used in a whole lot of different ways, but it really rose into prominence through its use in the LGBTQ plus community. In that context, it refers to the ways that LGBT people built their own support networks when their birth families rejected them because of their identity.
Yeah.
So I want to just acknowledge that and pay homage to that powerful origin of the term. And also to say that for the purposes of this conversation, we're going to be using the term chosen family in the broadest context because there are so many reasons why anybody might want to build a chosen family.
True. I can think of quite a few. And I think it's been a really positive thing for people too. I remember we had psychologist Todd Cashton on in the show in the spring to talk about friendships. And, he said that our sense of strength and confidence, both mental and physical, is really influenced by the people that we surround ourselves with. If we're close with people who make us feel strong and confident and accepted, it actually physiologically makes us feel stronger. And that's even true when we aren't with them in person. Something I heard a long time ago, and I've said repeatedly, that you become a reflection of the 5 closest people to you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think the tricky thing can be sometimes just making those strong bonds. And I'm curious, Leah, you are very far away in Bali from your birth family, but you seem to also have a really strong support network where you're hanging out in Bali. So yeah, how has that shown up for you?
Yeah, and it's also tricky because I live in a part of the world that's very transient. So a lot of people come here on vacation or they come here as a traveler for a month or 2, maybe 6 months, and then they leave. So I've had to learn how to develop friendships that might not be that long, or perhaps, with people that are going to live across the world. And I've had to put out more effort, I think, than a lot of people expect to do. I remember having conversation with a woman very distinctly that I was interested in becoming friends with, but we just started to get to know each other. And I straight out said something that felt really vulnerable to me at the time, but now it comes out really easy. And I said, hey, I really like you. I really vibe with you strongly. I think we have a lot in common. I'm really looking to develop a deeper friendships and, something beyond the surface level where we can call each other and hang out and talk about more personal things or struggles that we're going through and just like be support for one another. Are you interested in doing that? Are you interested in being my friend? So, we sometimes have these conversations with romantic partners, like to define the relationship or to take it a step deeper. But I never had that talk with a friend where I was like, let's define this relationship.
Yeah.
Are we friends or are we
Yeah.
acquaintances? And she looked at me all surprised and her face just lit up and she was like, I want that too. And that was like this moment that was really powerful for me because I realized I can proactively accelerate the timetable of a friendship by just stating my intentions and then following up with it
Yeah.
and, scheduling times to talk with that person or to actually create dates where we go have coffee
Yeah.
or talk in person. So it's been really important not having my family here. I don't have family that lives on this side of the world.
I feel like it's an expression of self-compassion and self-kindness, being clear and deliberate with expressing your desire. I do that also these days. Like if I meet somebody and we're making a connection, I will just flat out say, let's be friends. And I've got this one guy that I met in Destin, Florida, and we had this strong connection. And we said that, we're both really busy, but let's just make sure to remember to send each other supportive messages from time to time. And I'll get a message from him every once in a while that's really uplifting.
Oh,
And I'll try to do the same for him. And yeah, that's how we've defined our friendship. But I know there's a closeness that we're building there in that way.
yeah. I think it's important, the clarification and like you were really specific about what you want,
Yeah.
not just like ambiguous, like, oh, let's be friends. And then you're like, yeah, yeah. No, but really, what does that mean?
I hear the way that you're supporting yourself by deliberately making strong bonds while you are on the other side of the world. And for me, where I go to when I think about chosen family are the friend group that I fell into and helped form when I was in college. That was a really formative, at first kind of isolating time for me. Coming out of high school, it really was where I was kind of like trying to find myself and that I fell into this group of other like-minded artists and thinkers and just like beautiful people, like I know some of them listen to this podcast. So yes, I'm talking about you, the fam, and that's what we ended up calling ourselves. That was our little name for ourselves, the fam. My kids refer to them as aunt and uncle. Their kids refer to me as the same. We have Friendsgivings,
Friendsgivings. Yeah.
Well, I'll drive out to whatever state they're in. Sometimes we drive as far out as Ohio to have a Friendsgiving. And it's a seamless bond of family with this group of people. We celebrate their triumphs like we celebrate a family member's triumphs. We care about their outcomes the same way that we care about a family member's outcomes. So I feel very fortunate to have a familial bond with a group of people for the past 20 plus years now.
Yeah.
And that is my chosen family. So
yeah, I think you're fortunate and maybe it's not just, fortune or good luck to create those bonds. I think especially more difficult when we're older, when we're in school years, we're surrounded by these people in an environment where everyone's sort of together, and it changes once you're out of school. And I think especially once you start having family or children or career, it's like, I think it becomes a little bit more challenging to create friendships. So I have to just put out that additional effort and go, okay, well, what does friendship mean to me? And how do I define when someone's more than just a friend? They're like my chosen family. And what are my values with that? And I have to say that I've had some chosen family. At one point I thought of as family, and now I no longer do because, we've grown in different directions, or I realize that like some of the values that I have changed, or I've become more aware of my values, and we're just not the right fit. As we can stay friends, but maybe not family. And what does family even mean? There's all these questions that I have around it. It's like my family, we have and had and still have, there's a fair amount of codependency, I think, that is in our family dynamic. And I think many people can relate to that.
Yeah.
It's just something you kind of grow up learning from your family dynamics. And so I found myself with certain friends in the past, catching myself later on, realizing, oh my gosh, I am placing all these expectations on them, or I'm getting really offended or hurt by them because I put all these high expectations, or because I'm, kind of being codependent with them in a way that I'm repeating patterns that I had with my family. So it's really interesting on this journey of friendship to see where those patterns have shown up.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the thing about having a chosen family, with all the beauty of it, there are definitely challenges because it's a human experience, and human experiences are, by their nature, complicated and messy. So, when you've had somebody in your life who is essentially family and you've had them for a long time,
Mhm.
you can take the bond for granted, and not continue to nurture the relationship because it's so well established. But you could also be relating to one another as different versions of yourself. Like you might have grown in a very profound way, and while you were growing, you weren't necessarily sharing this with that chosen family member. They might be growing in a different direction, and in those times when you want to reconnect, you find that you're in different psychological zip codes, or it's like you said, your values end up being incongruent.
Yeah.
I think it can be tempting when conflict arises to just walk away and say, "Well, we're not."
Yeah. Blood relatives. So
Yeah,
I don't need you in my
yeah.
life kind of
Even
thing.
though you know that the bond is just as strong, but it's like you look for that out.
Yeah.
Just like any relationships, just like our family relationships, all that our chosen family relationships can get messy, they can get estranged, they can get distant, they can and they require work to be fresh and to be vital.
It's easy to, just kind of ghost somebody or to just drop them
Yeah.
if tension arises. It's a lot harder to have a conversation with somebody that's a friend and say, "Hey, listen, I was really hurt by this." For example, I have a girlfriend who I've known for many years, and she's very dear to me. And she and I have run into several instances where we've had breakdowns in our relationship and have had to repair them. And it's usually something like I was expecting her to show up when she said she was going to. She got really overwhelmed with work and had to cancel or just didn't show up in some way. And I'd get upset about it and come down on her, and then she'd feel like tiptoeing around me, like scared
Yeah.
to make me upset. And so we had to have a conversation where I was like, listen, I love you. I want to have you in my life as a friend, but I really value being able to rely on someone, like to have reliability. And I don't feel like you've been reliable or that you've shown up when I need you.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I've just been scared. I've kind of like avoided you sometimes
Yeah.
because I was afraid to disappoint you. And that made me feel like not so great. So I just kind of
Yeah.
didn't show up. And so we had to have these like real heart to hearts and recognize like, okay, where could I be a little bit less
Yeah.
rigid on her, and where can she show up a little bit more,
Yeah.
and to recognize our own part in this situation and then grow from that.
Yeah.
And then there comes a certain point, I've had friendships where we were drinking buddies and, in my early 20s. And that was kind of our way of our ritual bonding and how we'd celebrate holidays. And that at some point I grew out of that and it
Yeah.
wasn't healthy for me anymore. And now I'm like, okay, well, you're still kind of in that zone and I'm in a totally different space. So we don't need to be like family anymore.
Yeah.
But
Those are tough when that happens. And I've had to walk away from some friendships that were very, very familial, very deep, that had a certain toxicity to them that wasn't sustainable.
yeah, I think there's just that you have to be discerning about like, okay, when am I walking away from this family member because it's truly unhealthy for me
Right.
and they have no willingness to change and I've communicated my needs and it's been unmet?
Yeah.
Or when am I walking away because I'm afraid to speak my needs and to have those tough
Right.
conversations?
That discernment is really important. And it's important for any relationship. I think about my chosen family, though, very fondly. They are, you talked earlier about a source of strength. They really did make and do make me feel that I have a place in the world and that I matter.
We need to have a sense of belonging in this world and a sense of membership.
Yeah.
It's part of our physiological, psychological needs, and that's been proven. It's not like just food and water will do. But I also too have felt that there's been certain needs that, perhaps weren't met or couldn't be met by my family,
Yeah.
even if it just meant physically not being there. And So in many ways, choosing family and friendships to get really close with
Yeah.
and form strong bonds with has been really crucial in my self-esteem and my mental health and my well-being. And if you're listening to this and you're feeling isolated or alone, one thing that helped me is like going to support groups and meeting friends there, because people are so vulnerable and sharing, and it's very easy to form deep friendships with people when we're all in that state of like really honest, authentic sharing.
Yeah, I definitely recommend going on a meditation retreat.
Ooh, yeah.
You end up finding a lot of like-minded people and people who are willing to be, like you said, vulnerable and honest. So,
Or even a meditation teacher training.
you could for sure.
I mean, every training I've ever led, the people walk away going, I came here for a training and I left with new family.
Yeah.
Like just friendships that last for years. So I can't, immersing yourself in an environment with people for a little while is
a
good way to go.
This conversation is like making me wonder, like, who haven't I checked on recently? Or because for me, it's always important to examine how you're showing up and if you're taking folks for granted. And after this call, I'm definitely gonna send some "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" texts to some of the folks in my chosen family that I don't talk to as often as I'd like to.
Yeah, me too. And it's inspiring me to have that conversation, that like defining the relationship conversation with a couple of women that I have been kind of tiptoeing around and floating around.
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe we'll be friends or not. I wonder if they like me. But it's like, I know when I have those thoughts, I just need to like say like, I like you. Let's be friends. Here's what that means to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, if you're not watching this podcast yet, go check us out on YouTube. Our channel is called Balance, and we've got a link to today's episode in the show notes. Or if you're on Spotify, you can see our video when playing the episode in the app.
And remember to please rate and review the show wherever you are watching or listening. We love hearing from you, and it really helps us to spread the word to other people.
Yes, love hearing from you. And we're going to be back next week. Until then, have a great week.
Yeah, don't forget to be kind to yourself. Take care and peace.